Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for what you just said. The intersection of music and technology, I'm going to use that, because I'm going to talk about the intersection between fulfillment and impact today. That's where I'm at, and that's what I love to talk about. First, Mike. Thank you, Mike Schaefer, for asking me to come. Mike Schaefer is kind of a disruptor and an innovator, and he kind of upset me 6 or 7 years ago when I met him for the first time, because he said my logo was dusty and needed to be changed, and he said my marketing collateral is not in line, and I don't have a color deck, and I didn't even know what he was talking about, but I wasn't going to admit he was right. But today I can say thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Thank you very much. He's helped us a lot. So this morning, today, right now, this is an amazing day. This is a life of life day. This day is so important to me. Let me tell you how important it is. I got up at 3:45 this morning. I live in Irvine. But I wasn't going to just get up and drive up here. I wanted to have an experience this morning. So I got up at 3:45. I went downstairs. I got on my bike, and I rode up this little mountain road where I usually see wild animals in the morning. And that does something for me. This morning, I rode up, but it was so dark, I couldn't see anything. The birds weren't up yet. But I was going up to this one place that I sometimes see coyotes, and I heard some rustling in the brush, and I got real excited. And I looked. I didn't see him, but it was exciting. And then I rode up to the top of the hill, and I walked around this water tower into this open field to practice my talk. And I sang like, "Oh, Shenandoah," just to get my voice ready. And then I heard this really loud rustle, and I got really scared, and my hair stood up, and I walked back down the hill really fast. That's how I started this morning. Then I rode my bike down the hill really fast, like I felt like a bird flying down the hill. And then I went into the pool. I do this every morning. And so I have great days. I went into the pool and I swam. I didn't swim like you're probably thinking I'm swimming. I swam literally at about Tai Chi slow, like. I felt all of the water over all of my body. Then I went back home and I got under the redwood in my front yard and I wrote down 3 things I was grateful for, 3 things that would make the today great, and 2 I ams. Like I said, I am brief, I am bright, and I am gone, so I won't talk too long today, but that's how I started. That's how I started today. So by the time I got showered, I was smiling. And I came here, and I'm really excited to share with you what's going on. And I wanted to point that out. If you take care of yourself, if you fill your vessel, you can fill those around you. And I'm so much a better father, husband, and CEO today because I take care of myself. So, I'm going to tell you how I discovered fulfillment, where that intersection, fulfillment, and impact occurs. I'm going to go back. I was raised in a small town in Oregon, a small mountain town, population 3,000, called Myrtle Creek. And I was born to a Mormon family. So I was Mormon. I'm not Mormon now, I want to make that clear, but I was born Mormon. And I'm going to make fun of Mormons, and if you're Mormon, don't worry, it's my parents' religion. I respect their religion. It's just fun to make fun of where I've been. And so I'm going to tell you about, when I was Mormon, Mormons are really into service. I mean, like, every weekend we're picking apples, or we're going to 10 beehives, and that's supposed to be fun, but that wasn't fun for me. That was service. I wasn't getting any purpose out of it. It was like work. And then, like, the worst thing that Mormons do, I'm sorry, but if you're Mormon, every Saturday, somebody's moving in the Mormon church. And Mormons don't believe in movers. So there was volunteers. Every week, we'd show up. Every week, I would show up in a truck, and I swear every time there'd be only one other truck. We go in the house, nothing's boxed up. Let me put that more specifically. None of the shit is boxed up. And then people are saying, "Be careful, don't bump the armoire." I'm like, what? We're not getting paid. So I have one good memory of moving. And this is my whole experience with service as a kid. I have one good memory. I went on a move one day, and my dad's best friend, Ted Roberts, was there. We went to this lady's house, and nothing was boxed up. We'd been there for several hours. It was dusty. We were sneezing. We went inside her bedroom, and on top of her big armoire, everything was full, and then there was panties and perfume and stuff on top, and Ted Roberts looked at this, and he said, "Oh," and just raked it on the floor. That's my one good memory of moving. So service wasn't really working. My fulfillment hadn't happened yet. And then I got older, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to skip to when I was 19. And most of you know when Mormon boys are 19 and girls, they are expected to serve a mission. And I really didn't want to do that because I really had a problem knocking on doors and telling people their God was wrong. But when you're Mormon, you know, we're born into the traditions of our fathers. So that's what I did. I went on a Mormon mission. Fortunately, I was called to Thailand. And in Thailand, knocking on doors is against the law. So I was like, yeah, scored there. And there was something good there, because in Thailand, mostly what we did was service. And I found out not all service was so bad. For example, I was an expert at English, and so we taught English almost every day, and that was fun. In fact, I'm gonna tell you, can I tell something a little bit off? Okay, I've never told this before, but it's true. In Thailand, teaching English was fun because we would teach them like tongue twisters like Sally sells seashells by the seashore. And right after we taught these Thai students, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, they said, we want to teach you one. And sometimes things don't translate well. In Thai, one word can have 5 meanings depending on how the tone is. So the word ma, that's 5 different words. So they said this thing that means, in the morning you shake the beans, in the evening you eat baked beans, which translates directly to chow fuck butt yin butt fuck. So imagine us Mormon missionaries, we love that. We're running around the house saying chow fuck butt yin butt fuck, just like that. So that was kind of fun. Let me get serious though. So I'm in this position, we are doing service, I'm liking that okay, I'm struggling with the language, and then about 3 months in Thailand, we find out we're going to an orphanage. And in Thailand, I was warned by the other missionaries, they don't have a budget here, they mix the physically and mentally handicapped children in the orphanage, and it smells. So I walked into this orphanage feeling like I was going to a move. And I walked in to the room that I was assigned, and something happened. I looked on the ground, and a little girl looked up at me, and she had the most beautiful face. She was 9 years old, and someone had painted red cheeks right here, and she just looked up she smiled, and my eyes were drawn to her, and she did the international symbol of come pick me up. She put up her arms like this. So I walked over and I picked her up. I was shocked when I picked her up because I found out while she had long arms and the face of a 9-year-old, she had the body of a 2-year-old because she had severe spinal bifida and she weighed about 10 pounds. So in that state of shock, I didn't really want to set her, and I felt like that neighbor had handed me a snot-nosed kid, and I didn't want to, I was like going to do that triple bounce and put it down, so I grabbed her name was C. I grabbed C and I said, 1, 2, and I went to put her down, but when I went to put her down, she dug her fingernails in my back. And so, okay, I hung with that. A couple minutes later, I went to put her down again, and she grabbed me even tighter. And so I held C and walked around, and I held her all day. I held this child. We were sweated together, and something happened inside of me that I can't explain very well, and it took a while to understand this memory and what it meant, but something happened. It's as if Grandma and her wooden ladle that she stirred that big pot on the wooden fireplace, it's like she was stirring me up inside, and I'd never felt that before. And for the first time in my life, I was feeling fulfilled. I was feeling fulfilled, like what's happening to me? I don't know, but I didn't want to put her down. And there was impact. I mean, at the time, I would have guessed the impact was on her. Looking back, the impact was on me. I was awakened. Something awoke inside me that put people first. And that changed my life. And so I went back, now having this ability to see something that this little girl taught me. This muscle of compassion was awakened in me. And by the way, that muscle grows. The more you give, the more it grows. So I go back and I start this business, and I have a roofing company. We are celebrating 29 years almost a 29-year anniversary, but 29 years ago, I didn't have any clients, I didn't have anything. In fact, I didn't have kettles, I didn't have the ability to sell a new roof. So I became really good at solving leaks. If you had a leak from rain that nobody could solve, I was gonna find it. That became what we did great. But nobody knew we existed. And we were selling in a kind of business-to-business market. We were only selling to HOAs, which homeowners associations. And so I needed every call so bad that in my home office, I put weather stripping around the door so if a caller called, they couldn't hear the kids cry. So under that kind of environment, I get a call, and a lady's got leaks. It's like, oh, you have leaks? Yes, I have leaks in every room. Like, yeah. So the next day, I'm driving out. This is in LA, near LAX, and I'm driving to the neighborhood, and I'm turning on the streets. I notice the houses are getting smaller, more dilapidated, until finally I turn on the street, and where the house should be, and there's no house, I see a dead grass field, and way in the back of it, there's 4 walls with a flat roof, and I'm thinking, that can't be the house. But my dad teaches me to always show up no matter what, so I go and knock on the door, and a middle-aged woman with a tired expression answers the door, and as I'm about to greet her, this big whiff of mildew hits me. And I'm just immediately realizing this is a bad decision being in this house. I need to get out of here because I have to meet the mortgage payment in 2 weeks, and there's no way I can do this. And as I'm thinking all these thoughts, I feel a tug at my finger, and I look down, and there's a little 5-year-old girl with the blondest hair I've ever seen, and she's got a smile from ear to ear. She doesn't smell what I smell. In fact, she's like so happy to have a visitor. She has no idea that her house is about to be taken from her. She wants to show me her house, so she pulls me in to her crowded living room and through a tiny hallway until finally we walk into her bedroom because she wants to show me the unicorn poster on the wall. But when I looked at the unicorn poster on the wall, my eyes were instead drawn to 4 mattresses on the floor where her and her brothers and sisters slept, and they had mold on them. And I realized this was the main source of the mildew. So that put me in this was not a good feeling. This was not a comfortable feeling. This was like, oh no, ugh, what do? I gotta get out of here. What am I gonna do? This little girl, she's cute, but I have to leave. I was in need. I didn't have my mortgage payment covered. Until finally the mom walks in, and it just something awoken in me again, and I said, I'll take care of this. And I walked up on the roof, hoping they just needed a patch, and the roof was shot. So I called volunteers, didn't have any employees yet. We got 6 volunteers. We went up on that roof that weekend, and we put on a really messy roof, but it was dry. I mean, seriously, there was tar dripping down the sides, I remember. It wasn't my best work, but it was dry. And they kept their home, and it was a great experience. And every time I've run into one of those kids, or every time I've run into one of those volunteers, there's this moment like, yay, high five, like, how's it going? And wow, what's that worth? What's that worth? Well, that kind of stayed in our company. Because once again, there was that intersection of, I was fulfilled, even though it was hard to get there. And that's a common theme, by the way, in giving. It doesn't feel like there's enough. The magic is giving anyway. I can't explain how it works. And I can't explain why it works, but I see but I see that it works that way, and no one's excluded. It works that way for everybody. So we had this occurrence that I didn't have the words for this then, but this is what happened. We never let anybody have a leaky roof just because they didn't have the money to pay. That became who we were. And eventually, we became this purposeful company. And imagine what happens when you do that. You start to retain your talent. You start to attract more talent. About 9 years ago, I got a call from Sharon Ellis, the executive director of Habitat for Humanity Orange County, and she asked us if we would donate a roof. Well, that was a really easy yes for me. It's like, sure. Then she asked us a month later, donate another roof. Well, okay. And then pretty soon we find ourselves donating every roof, and we've donated every roof on every Habitat build in Orange County since 2009, and that is awesome when that happens. Thank you. And so we start to attract talent. Now, it's not all balanced when you start doing this. If it's just my vision and I'm going, come on, guys, I was like Will Ferrell in Old School. Come on, everybody's doing it. Come on. Streaking, you remember that scene? And my production and my marketing people are going like, dude, you're just creating more work for us, and are we going to be able to pay the bills? And I realized I didn't quite have the balance right. It's an inside-out job. And so I'm going to fast forward to an example of that. About 2 years ago, Antis Roofing was really fortunate because of our brand in attracting better talent. We attracted somebody that I've been recruiting for a long time. Her name is Karen Inman, and Karen Inman is our president and COO today, and she runs the business. I don't do anything. I get to play here today. I get to play somewhere next week, but I get to play with the gives and hang out with cool people like you. But she does all the work. And Karen, she was having such amazing traction with our employees. She was having success in operations, and she had a vision for everybody. I could see immediately that was greater than the vision they had for themselves. She had a vision for everybody that was greater than the vision they had for themselves, including myself. But I went to Karen after 2 weeks and said, Karen, do you realize you have a superpower? And she looked at me without skipping a beat and she said, yes. Like, oh, what is it? And like she's answered it 1,000 times, she said, I lift everybody I touch every day. Karen Inman does. She lifts everybody she touches every day. There's one of our employees right there, Lori. Does she lift everybody she touches every day? Yeah, and it's like contagious. And we find ourselves lifting people, and we have this amazing team. Well, she wasn't satisfied with that, with me getting that answer. 2 months later, she puts planes tickets on my desk and says, we're going to Seattle. What's in Seattle? She said, the Imperative Purpose Lab. What's that? Well, do you know the DISC and how you get into personality and stuff? DISC and personality assessments? Well, this is way deeper. And it's going to help you find your superpower. I go, really? Okay. But I went because my COO is showing alignment with me, but I was scared. I didn't want to go and bare my soul with these other CEOs up in Seattle. But I went, and I had a magical experience. Magical, because I found out something that was so important about myself. And it's worth pausing on this to explain. I found my superpower. What Imperative is able to do is break down us as individuals and say we're not alike. Because sometimes we grow up in systems that say we should be alike. But Imperative does a context distinguisher where they say we're all meant to do good. All of us, everyone, no one's excluded. But we don't all have the same skill set. Now, one of the things that I do really bad is tutor people. My 20-year-old daughter, when she was 10, I was tutoring her in her math. And I was really trying to help her, and I said to her when she wasn't getting it, Allie, do you want to be the only kid in your class that doesn't get this? That's what I said. That seemed like the thing to say then. And she looked at me with her finger and she said, you're mean. And that's the last time I tutored. But I was ashamed of that. I was ashamed of that. And those of you in my company that know, I'm not a good manager of people. I'm good in certain points of leadership, but I'm not a good manager. And I was ashamed of that. I kept it hidden. Well, when I went to Imperative, I found out that people are driven to help in one of three ways. Some people, some of you here, many of you here are just drawn to help one person on one-on-one, like me and C that day. And some of you are just built to help families and organizations, and that's your strength. But I found out I was neither. So I was able to forgive myself that thing that was I was the most ashamed of. And I found out where my superpower was, because what fulfills me is the impact I have speaking to groups, speaking to communities, speaking to societies, speaking to organizations that affect growth, change in the world. That was a huge moment for me. So today I know what my superpower is. While Karen lifts everybody she touches every day, I live to ignite passion in others for their social change. And that's why it's easy for me to be here and speak today. So that was a really cool thing. We came back from Seattle, and Karen and our HR director trained our top 35 people to find out what their superpower is. Lori, have you done yours yet? What's your superpower? She's worked for us for how long? 2 months. And you are fulfilled by bringing people together and building community? That's awesome. I mean, what is that worth when you know what fulfills you? So at our company, all these people know what fulfills them. The only reason we haven't done everyone is we don't have it available in Spanish yet. But Imperative Purpose Lab is working feverishly to give us an assessment tool that we can give our people. This is powerful. Now, when this occurs, magic happens. Magic happens. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Our people have superpowers. I know what they are. I have an employee named Jesus. We were asked to go to Washington with our CEO of the National Roofing Contractors Association, of which I'm a board member, to walk on Washington for the first time. And we had over 400 people show up a few months ago. And Jesus, I asked him to come, and he didn't want to come. He didn't want to come. He didn't want to draw attention to himself. He says, I'm not a citizen. He's a legal resident. He doesn't want to draw attention to himself. And his daughter, who's studying political science, says, Dad, go. And so he came and went to Washington, and we lobbied these senators. And I remember being in Congressman's office, and I remember being lobbying these people before and never having this impact. But when Jesus mentioned his name, his voice was, I am Jesus. He has the accent of 70% of the workforce that works in roofing in this country. Then Jesus was called to go visit Senator Correa. I've lobbied him before for Habitat for Humanity. I was bummed I wasn't called because there was 400 of us. We were being handled. And Jesus goes by himself, and I'm feeling hurt, and I find out what happened. I find him later. He comes back, and he goes, I just went and visited Senator Correa with one other person. Really? Why didn't I go? I didn't really say that, but really? What happened? And he goes, it was awesome. He listened to me, and I told him about what it's like in my neighborhood, and he was there, and Jesus came back, and he spoke to all of our people. Imagine what all of the people thought when Jesus was telling them the impact he had. Jesus is changing the world. I saw Senator Correa 2 weeks later at Illumination Foundation meeting, and I was so excited. I went up to Senator Correa, and I go, Senator Correa, Congressman Correa, you have no idea the impact you had on Jesus. And he nearly cut me off, and he said, you have no idea the impact that Jesus had on me. He told me that he wasn't going to go to Washington that day, but he found out there was somebody in his district, and he wasn't a citizen, but he was in his district, and that's why he showed up. When I told Jesus that, he walks a little taller now. He has purpose in what he does. So giving back is not just to the nonprofits, it's to everything. Listen, I'm going to tell you 3 takeaways that I think are really important that might tie to fulfillment mixed with impact. The first is, you need to know your story. You'll listen to me, I tell a lot of stories. I've discovered finally in my 56th year of life that the most magical path is my path. And to you, the most magical path is your path. If you study your stories and you really look at your past, you'll find where you're going in the future. I used to be ashamed of things in my life. I used to be ashamed of the sea story. I didn't tell the sea story. You know why? Because I felt like this girl had great impact on my life, and she's still in Thailand, because I thought it was all about me. Well, it was about me. It was about her awakening me. That came to me in time. So know your story. Also, find a way to yes. The magic is, I want you to catch this. It isn't easy, but when you get asked to do something, don't say no. That's all I'm saying. Don't say no. Say maybe. But if you say no, you kill this whole action, this whole how, this whole thing that happens that I can't explain what it is, but I've seen examples of it. But if you say no, if you say okay maybe and go to bed, if I just stay in that home and I just say okay, let me look at your roof, magic happens. Things shift at night. And so I'm going to challenge you in your life. When you get asked to mentor somebody, when you get asked to donate something, find a way to yes. And finally, put yourself first. If I didn't get up early and take care of myself, I would be here reading some script telling you how awesome things were, and you maybe or maybe won't get it. But if I come here, when I'm anywhere, I'm all in. Every day is the most magical day of my life. So, take care of yourself. Thank you guys for letting me talk. I'd love to answer questions, because Antis Roofing, the more we give, the more we grow. And we truly believe, everyone, that we are changing the world one roof at a time. Thank you.
Charles, that was truly an inspirational story. Everyone here in the audience totally felt that. I really appreciate that humble beginning. I think a lot of us in the audience have an idea of what we want to do, and we hope that all works out. And through opportunities where you just didn't feel certain to donate your time and talent and resources, that actually became your mission statement, your purpose within your organization. And that is truly magical. I truly believe in being at service to others, and I think a lot of people here in the community do too. I think we really need, as entrepreneurs, especially in the Pasadena area, to be able to work with each other, rely on each other, and be at service to each other, and collaborate on projects, because sometimes people have great ideas, they just don't have the financial means to support them and see them through. And I've come a long way in some of my projects because I've collaborated with some of the people that I've met here at Friday Coffee Meetup. So it's just an honor for you to come to our stage and share that message, because I think it resonates so closely with what we're trying to do here. That being said, we're going to open up to Q&A. John's going to walk around with the mic. If you have a question, raise your hand. We're going to get it answered. We'll have some time at the end. Charles, will you be hanging out with us afterwards?
Yes.
Okay. So probably not going to do a lot of storytelling, though. I don't know. It seems that it's somewhat relevant to the talk that we had today. But we're going to try to focus on questions. If you'd like to share a story, let's do it for offline, unless John decides to change his mind. He's the man with the mic. Okay, here we go.
Does anybody have a question? Can you explain these two posters? 'Cause
Yes.
you got a lot of
Yes.
information there, and I was looking at those.
This is one of the things that we've discovered, and this was a gift. Todd Talbot, CEO of Fluid Master. Fluid Master, if you don't know who they are, open your toilet. All the parts are made by Fluid Master. Very philanthropic company. We were having trouble with our culture, and I believe philanthropy is an inside-out job. You put your people first. So he suggested we get these 501(c) giving cards. So what it is imagine a gift card that can only be redeemed at a nonprofit. So they told me this would really help our culture, and I thought, it's not going to work. You don't know, I can't really expect other people to give. I mean, sure, we want to give. I think, how judgmental is that? So finally, I tried it. I got these giving cards, and we started giving it out. So we have an all-hands-on-deck meeting every week. At the all-hands-on-deck meeting, we'll give this giving card for one of our employees to give to the nonprofit that speaks to their heart. And then the person that got it the week before goes up and he explains, or she explains, where they gave it to and why. And there's where the magic happens. Because suddenly, production and sales who didn't get along that well, suddenly somebody in production hears about the salesman's aunt who they donated to the American Cancer Society, and they know why, and they have that aligned value. And so we found that it tore down the walls and the barriers. Now, in the giving cards, we handed out over 5,000 of them last year. So we learned a really unique data point. This is the data point. This is exactly where Southern Californians give. This is a unique data point. This is where your hearts and minds are. There's some alarming things in here, like the animal services is one of the highest areas. People really care about dogs and cats specifically, we've learned. And we've learned that human services are a really big deal. So this is kind of where the hearts and minds of Southern California are. And over here, just kind of has a summary of last year. We donated to over 55 nonprofits. We kept them dry. Some got new roofs, some got maintenances, some got leak repairs. We donated about 8 habitat roofs. We gave away 10,000 seats at the Honda Center to, do you have those hats, Lori? So whoever asks the question is gonna get a hat, which is the Antis Roofing and Anaheim Ducks Community Corner hat, where we're giving away 20,000 seats next year, this next season, to 501(c) nonprofit stakeholders. So that kind of summarizes a lot of our gives right there. So that's kind of what that is. Come on, you gotta ask. I love questions.
I've got some hats. There's a question back here. Here you go.
Thank you. Yeah, a quick question for somebody who wants to tap into that magic of knowing their purpose and their superpower. What approach would you recommend? Would it be to plug into Imperative Purpose Lab, or what tips could you give to tap into that purpose, fulfillment, magic, superpower thread?
Okay. I mean, I could go a lot of directions on that, because that's pretty much how I do. I want everything to have purpose and meaning. I try to get mindful enough that every part of my day has purpose and meaning in it. So, but Imperative Purpose Lab is the deepest dive I've ever seen. I don't think it's very cheap, but I think it's worth it. I think that they're probably going to create a much better, easier version, a less costly version. I'm going to a conference in 2 months, but the Imperative Purpose Lab is the best at finding out who you are. Have you ever done a DISC assessment? I mean, any kind of personality assessment is important, because let me tell you another quick story. A DISC basically says you survive in the world either by being dominant, by being popular, by being kind of middle of the pack, or being really cautious. When you understand who you are, you will, because I survive by being popular, just how I'm built. And I used to be embarrassed that I always wanted to be the center of attention. Now it's like, I get it. So I think to find yourself, you need to do assessment tools and know yourself, but also you want to really find that thing. What is that thing that fulfills you? When you go back and search your life, we all have stories that sometimes didn't have meaning at the time, or we were embarrassed at the time, because it's those moments that affect, those moments you remember. Why do you remember them? Go back and hit those early memories, and you'll find out what your values are. If you go back in your life and you have that great memory when you're 7 years old and you're at Disneyland, and wow, There's an answer there. Why was that? What is it that was present when you were at Disneyland with your family that made you remember that? There's your value. Or go to your negative memory when your grandfather died when you were 13 and you have this negative memory. Okay, go back to that memory. What was missing at the time? There's a value. When you start to find out who you are, you can find real authentic. And I believe that people are meant to give back. So I think you got to find that cause that speaks to you. I can say you guys all hear this all the time, but find your why. What does that mean? Find your why to me means something different every day. But that's good. It's hard to figure it out. But ask that a lot. Find out who you are. If you're in business just to make money, you're not going to survive in this new adaptive world. But if you're in business and you know why you exist, let me tell you why I exist. We exist to keep families safe and dry. We all know it. The answer is really simple when we're all aligned in that. I hope that helps.
I was just curious, say if you had a nonprofit down the street and they wanted to contribute labor to a project, do you still do projects where maybe people in the nonprofit participate in the roof process, working, et cetera, or is it an insurance issue? Or because early on you talked about that.
That's a great question. So I think if you look to incorporate a nonprofit partnership like Antis does with Habitat and some other brands, I think you have to do your due diligence. Besides having genuine alignment, you have to do your homework. Do they have it? I mean, this is the truth. It's the way it is. If it's just a cause, you need to have a good board, strong staff, and a great leader. And if you have those things, then what you have is protections. Like in Habitat, they handle all the liabilities, and we can have volunteers. So that I can't set that up. If I have volunteers on my job without the nonprofit arm, then I'm really setting myself in a dangerous place. But if we partner with, Habitat for Humanity, Ronald McDonald House, American Red Cross, these are people that we do regular programs with the volunteer time. They have the liability waivers and they have that covered. So it's really important to make sure you have a great alignment if you're co-branding and co-marketing in a cause type way with a nonprofit.
Really quick question. You have, any roofing company has workers. I'd like you, because you said it's very important to take care of yourself first. How do you take care of the workers compared to how other companies take care of their roofing workers?
Thank you for asking that question.
Pay especially.
Pay is very important.
Thanks, Mitch, for asking.
Pay is very important. Well, first of all, today it's a really important time to ask. So we blind survey, and we find out exactly what's important, and we build that out. But because we put purpose first, because we put our employees first. Let me tell you an interesting fact. The roofing industry is the hardest trade in the industry. It's the hardest trade. 3 out of 5 roofers will be out of business in 3 years. 3 out of 5 roofers will be out of business in 3 years. The roofing industry across the nation has more than a 50% attrition rate. That means half the employees at least will be gone by the end of the year. Imagine the quality problems we have. At Antis Roofing last year, we tracked 93% retention. And really, it was exactly where it was supposed to be. So it makes all the difference. But we do so much for our employees. We survey them. I've taken all my men, the men that were born in Mexico. I want to understand what's important to them. And I took them all to breakfast, and I did a peaks and valleys exercise where I found out their values. And now I know what's important. So now we have an annual aguinaldo. And if you know what aguinaldo is, in Mexico, corporations have to give about 10% of the annual salary to the employees. So we do a bonus. Last year, almost all of our employees, sales were highly commissioned, but outside of sales, everyone got almost an extra month's pay. So we do aguinaldo. We have the Lobo Awards. Why Lobo? Because I found out that Mexican men really admire the famed white wolf of Mexico that's almost extinct. And so we do Lobo Awards. So we go deep and find out, we have Mexican expressions that we use that are so powerful. Like in Mexico, an expression is, honor the labor of men, which sounds kind of sexist now when I say it on the mic. But it means honor the labor of those that provide. So we go deep in really providing and paying at the top of the scale.
One last hat.
This is a great segue to my question, which, the key word being alignment, and it's so clear, Charles, why you have that retention rate. What I'm curious is if you've found the magic wand for discerning who to hire that's going to be well aligned with who you are.
I love that question. I don't know if I'll answer it well, but I know the answer. We don't hire for skill anymore. Yeah, we have to look at skill, but it's a dangerous place now more than ever. We hire for that passionate alignment with who we are. We hire, I'm missing the right word, but we find out that personality assessment. So like Lori's a great example. Lori is my personal assistant. I've been looking for an executive, I've had a lot of great assistants, but they were repurposed. But I'm looking for a trained executive assistant, and we would interview them, and we would get to the final stages. We love someone, and then we take them to the final. The most important part was the assessment. Will they be compatible with me on all these measures, emotional intelligence, DISC type personality assessments? And I'd often find out, no, if you hire this person, you are going to destroy them. You know, they won't. Their directive isn't high enough. So I was so grateful when Lori came in. She was so nice, and she got me, and it usually means they're not going to be strong enough to stand up to me. And I was so excited when we got the assessments back. The assessment said, she's a compatible personality, she has purpose, she wants to find. So that alignment with values is the most important thing. Thank you for asking that.
Awesome. That's all the time we have for Q&A.